Howdy, my name is Abby Terry.
I'm Heather Zuo.
I'm Chloe Foster.
I'm MaKenna, Callison.
And I'm Mancilla.
And this is our presentation on mysteries of the ocean. One mystery of the ocean is how much of it remains unmapped, especially the floor. According to oceana.com, there is more than 80% of the ocean that remains unexplored. This makes it difficult for us to properly protect the wild and plant life if we don't know where or what they are. These on the screen are some examples of animals that we did not know existed until we explored further. So how many more species of animal and plant life are we missing? One of the difficulties and obstacles we have when exploring is because of the extreme pressure in the deeper parts of the ocean that prevents humans or machines to explore because they cannot safely or comfortably withstand it. This is one mystery that is of great importance because according to bigthink.com, with better mapping, submarines will be able to have better awareness when traveling, but also when conducting infrastructure such as pipelines, we will have a better idea and have a better input on how we are directly affecting the environment. With better mapping of the ocean and its floors, it will also satisfy the natural curiosity that humans have. And it can also be extremely helpful when predicting weather due to the ocean floor influence currents and the current climate.
The oceans are the world's biggest carbon sinks. Oceans are better at storing carbon than trees. Oceans store organic carbon in the form of dead plants, algae, and animals that all die and sink to the bottom of the ocean floor, transporting their carbon. Another example of how oceans store carbon is near New Zealand. Seashells of plankton have a long-term rate of permanent carbon removal in the ocean. The seashells have drawn down about the same amount of carbon as regional emissions of carbon dioxide, and this process was even higher during the ancient periods of climate warming. Oceans are better at storing carbon than trees. An ocean is a carbon sink, which is a natural reservoir that absorbs and stores carbon with physical and biological mechanisms. Other examples of this would be coal, natural gas, and oil. The ocean is able to store carbon like this with a process called the ocean carbon pump, which has two different mechanisms, biological and physical. Biological pump mechanism transfers surface carbon towards the food web, which is very important for sea life. It's very sensitive to disturbances, and if disturbed, will release carbon back into the atmosphere. A physical pump mechanism results from the ocean circulation and transfer of carbon. It is less sensitive to disturbances, but is affected on a long-term basis.
This slide will be about how most of the aquatic life remains unidentified. According to oceanservices.noaa.gov, scientists have estimated that 91% of the ocean species have yet to be discovered. This leaves 9% of marine species that we have been able to identify. Also, according to oceanservices.noaa.gov, for 10 years, many scientists and nations have helped contribute to one project called the Census of Life. During that time, they were able to identify 1,200 new species. The Census of Life project resulted in the making of an international ocean biogeographic information system that can look up over 159,996 species of marine life. According to earthsky.org, as of 2020, there have been 10 new marine species discovered. That has been over the project of 10 years. One of those species has been named the Patrick Sea Star, and this is actually one of the pictures they were able to take with a submarine.
The next fact is that the ocean contains the world's largest structure. The Great Barrier Reef is found in Australia, and it is a system of more than 2,900 individual reefs, and it spans more than 2,000 kilometers long. Coral reefs are very complex. There's much confusion over whether they are a rock, an animal, or a plant, but fun fact, they can be classified as all three. The coral polyp is an animal that lives in colonies and essentially builds the reef. However, they are mixotrophic, and it is symbiotic relationship with zooxanthellae. As can be seen in the picture on the left, the little portions of green that are within are the zooxanthellae. And so while the coral polyp receives part of their nutrients from the zooxanthellae receives protection. They're also what give the corals their color. Lastly, they're also a rock because they leave a calcium carbonate skeleton when they die, and coral polyps build upon their ancestors' exoskeleton. Coral reefs are the rainforests of the ocean as they provide a very biodiverse community. However, they are very particular about their living conditions and can only stay alive within a certain range of temperatures. Under temperatures even slightly higher than within their range, zooxanthellae begin to produce oxygen radicals in the animal, so the coral polyps expel them because it harms them and they lose the symbiotic relationship. And so the coral polyps become transparent or bleached, and they're able to live for about a few weeks standalone because they are like somewhat autotrophic, but they can only produce so much of their nutrients, and so they have to like hold back, and if they don't recover the zooxanthellae soon, they can actually starve.
And then the fifth and the final fact that we're going to cover today is that there are incredible mountains, rivers, and waterfalls beneath the ocean surface. For the sake of this presentation, I'm going to cover mainly the mountains and the rivers that are underneath the surface. Mountains that are underneath the ocean surface are called seamounts, and they are underwater mountains that are generally from extinct volcanoes that rise up to thousands of feet from the ocean floor. The highest mountain that is in the entire world is actually a seamount. The seamount is Hawaii's Mauna Kea, which is over 30,000 feet tall when it's measured from the ocean floor. Scientists estimate that there are a minimum of 100,000 seamounts that can be found around the world that are at least 1,000 meters tall. So why are seamounts important? Well, there's two main reasons. The first being that seamounts are habitats for an abundance of marine life, such as deep sea corals, crabs, and sponges. And the second is that seamounts form and help to shape the currents in the ocean. And in doing this, they can redirect nutrient-rich waters up the side of them into the surface. The second thing that I wanted to talk about was underwater rivers. And underwater rivers are rivers that are found beneath the ocean surface, and they're found all over the world. The biggest of these rivers can be miles long and can be miles wide and thousands of miles long. They're really similar to rivers on land. They had a lot of similar traits, such as riverbanks, tributaries that feed into them, and they can even follow the patterns of meandering or oxbow lakes. But the main key difference is that rivers on land have water flowing through them, and rivers underwater have sediment flowing through them. The underwater flows of underwater rivers are made up of sediments of both sand and silt that flow very quickly, and this is one of the reasons why they are extremely dangerous to study. They're largely unstudied for two main reasons, the first being the previously mentioned quick sediment flow, and the second being the depth of them. Underwater rivers are usually at least a mile below the surface, if not much more, and these make it very hard for scientists to get down there in the first place, and then once they are down, to remain safe whenever they're studying them. And then these are the references that we use in creating this presentation. And then we just wanted to say thank you for watching this presentation, and we hope that you learned something from it, or at least enjoyed watching it. Thank you.